think so. Right, good evening and welcome to Cheltenham Borough Council Licensing Subcommittee, Miscellaneous Subcommittee, which is being held today, Wednesday, the 4th of February 2026. My name is Councillor Dr. David Willingham and I have been elected Chair of the committee this evening. The meeting is being streamed live to Cheltenham Borough Council's YouTube channel and the recording of the meeting will be held for 4 years. If there are any breaks to the transmission of the YouTube stream, the meeting will be adjourned for a short period until any issues are resolved. There are no public present, so I won't need to cover that bit about CCTV or consent, and we will do housekeeping with each of the applicants at the time. For members, we're not expecting a fire alarm, so if the alarm does sound, please leave and congregate in the usual place. Right, agenda item number 1, which is apologies for absence. So apologies have been received from Councillor Wheeler and Councillor Boys, who are the Chair and Vice Chair respectively, which is why you have me tonight, and Councillor Barrell is attending as a substitute. If we'll do the member introductions at the point for each applicant when we get to that later. So agenda item number 2 is declarations of interest. Does any member have any declarations of interest? I am not seeing any. So rather than taking the exempt session items and going straight into exempt session, we do have some public briefing notes at the agenda item 6. So using Chair's prerogative, I'm going to vary the order so that we can take the briefing notes in public, so that if there are any questions or any comments, that they're recorded for the public record. So with that, if I can hand over to the Licensing and Public Protection Manager just to go through that, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've just prepared a briefing note to update you on some past consultations that have closed, but also a couple of current consultations and pieces of work that the licensing team are delivering. So firstly, on the briefing note, the committee was updated in September at the full licensing committee regarding the licensing task force report and the government response to that. There was a summary of recommendations and there were 10 priority recommendations to consider. I won't go through them in detail, but they are listed in your briefing paper. It is felt that this is quite important to Licensing Act 2003 work that we deliver in the borough. So I have spoken to our cabinet member, Councillor Victoria Atherstone, and we would like to do an interim review of our statement of licensing policy, even though we have just done that. So we will look to do that over the next few months with a view to bring that to Licensing Committee for consultation. So just to update you on that. Are there any questions on that piece of work at all? No? Okay.
I'll come to some comments after at the end.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, the second consultation on the briefing paper is just to let you know there was a consultation that closed on the 15th of January regarding the relaxation of licensing hours for the Men's Football World Cup 2026. So that's closed, and you may have seen in the news that there will be a relaxation on hours. And that won't just be for the finals, it'll also be for the semi-finals and quarter-finals for any home nation games. The third consultation that closed on the 30th of January was a consultation on Category D gaming machines and licensing for bingo premises. There are hyperlinks, so you can read those consultations if you need to. The next consultation on the briefing paper is quite a significant consultation for licensing authorities, and that's the local transport authorities and the licensing of taxis and private hire vehicles that the Department for Transport currently consulting on, and that closes on the 1st of April. This is a proposal to move the responsibilities for taxi and private hire licensing away from local licensing authorities and put it with local transport authorities. Again, I can take questions on that. It's quite a comprehensive consultation. You can obviously view that on the hyperlink I've put in the document. That will reduce the number of licensing authorities from 263 to 70 local transport authorities. What we are proposing is that we feed into the county-wide response with the Gloucestershire Licensing Officer group that we all sit on. The officers at Cheltenham Borough Council all sit on that. If there are strong views that you'd like a Cheltenham local response, then Councillor Atherstone is happy to look into that. Again, happy to look at that at the end of this briefing. The next piece of work is the Animal Welfare Strategy for England, DEFRA, published on the 22nd of December. We are also responsible for animal activity licensing in the licensing team, and that document just sets out their aims around animal welfare. Of particular interest for us as a licensing authority, that looks at pets and companion animals. So that could bring in more licensing requirements around cat breeding and also animal rescue centres as well. So we'll hear more on that in the future. Then just updated you on a couple of other pieces of work. So the Institute of Licensing published its partnership charter for the nighttime economy at their annual conference in November. Cheltenham Borough Council committed to that partnership charter, and Louis Krogh, the head of public protection, signed that charter along with key stakeholders at the conference. We are just currently reviewing our evening and nighttime economy strategy as part of our Purple Flag working group here at the council. I chair that working group, and we have key stakeholders on that working group, including the Cheltenham Guardians, the street pastors, the day and night safe, police, and a lot of other stakeholders. We will bring a briefing paper to full council to update you on that work, and the strategy is being reviewed for the next 3 years. That will run until our next full Purple Flag assessment. As part of that evening and nighttime economy strategy work, we are proposing that we're going to implement a charter that evening and nighttime economy businesses can sign up to in the borough, and that'll be a high standard that they can commit to show that their premises are a safe space to visit. And we'll do quite a lot of social media work on that with our communications team. Quite how that strategy looks, that charter looks at the moment, that's still to be finalised, but will include steps, for example, that they've got the Ask for Angela campaign in place at the premises, that they've got a safe space, they have regular staff training, and all of the stakeholders be part of like writing that charter. There's lots of good practice out there in the country that we'll be looking at as well. And that just brings me on to the Purple Flag interim assessment. So that working group submitted the Purple Flag interim assessment application last week. So we'll hear back on that in a couple of months, hopefully. We've obviously retained that for the 10th year running last year, so hopefully we'll have that for the 11th year. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Barrell.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if there are any members of the public perhaps watching in who are wanting to know more about any of the things that you've been mentioning. Is there somewhere they can, turn to?
Thank you, Chair. So on our website, we do currently have the current evening nighttime economy strategy work. So they can search that in the search bar and look at that, and we will update that once we have the new one in place. We are going to have a new website this year as well, so we are going to have a landing page and really promote that good work that we're doing. So watch this space, and I'll send that link around to the committee once that's published. With regards to consultations, this paper is on the meeting page and all the hyperlinks are on there, so they can click on that and read all the national consultations. Thank you.
Councillor Pemberton.
Yes, just going back to the taxi licensing arrangements, obviously they're currently dealt with here by Cheltenham Borough Council, which will cease to exist potentially under the local government reforms proposals. What are the implications for the ceasing to exist of Cheltenham Borough Council on the licensing for taxis and the proposals of it going to a larger authority?
Thank you, Chair. There is a section, it's the fourth section on the consultation that goes into detail around the local transport authority and also the local government reorganisation proposals. I can read that in detail if you'd like me to. So at the moment, it's the statutory invitation that's been issued to all two-tier areas. There are some unitary authorities already in place, which is just the upper tier. So even if the proposal doesn't proceed, then the licensing authority in most areas will change, because when implemented, obviously LGR will move the licensing authority from district councils and any small neighbouring unitary councils to the successor unitary councils, resulting in fewer licensing authorities than at present. So you can read that in greater detail in the consultation paper.
Any more questions? So just a few, I think, observations from me. So the local amnesty, which could help streamlining, we're looking at removing conditions. Do we have any powers to add things that might be required or be useful to have that didn't get added at the time, or is it only trying to take things away?
Thank you, Chair. This has been discussed at great length in national forums and the panel that we have with the Institute of Licensing. The licence amnesty, there isn't actually a way that you can remove conditions except through the minor variation process, and that will still remain.
But it was about adding things that we think might be necessary. One example would be conditions for, say, mandatory safeguarding training that would benefit certain licensable activities but wouldn't have been considered.
Thank you, Chair. No, there won't be an avenue for that unless there's a review application.
The other thing is, if we are reviewing our statement of licensing policy, I know we've just done it, we haven't got anything on our current policy in the sort of standard conditions, as far as I remember, for late night refreshment, in terms of mandating, let's say, annual or triennial safeguarding training for premises. And in light of things like the Rotherham scandal, where fast food premises were one of the areas that vulnerable children were taken. So could we look at maybe some other marginal improvements as we're doing the same review?
Thank you, Chair. I think when we do a consultation, I think that's something as a consultee that you could feed in, either as the committee or as a ward councillor, and obviously any other interested parts, so other persons could do that as well.
Perfect. And then in terms of the local transport authorities and taxis, is this being widely circulated to the local taxi trade? Because so things like the trade times, because I imagine our drivers might be quite concerned in terms of where they would be able to operate, whether taxis formerly licensed by Gloucester City would be able to operate in Cheltenham and vice versa, and how that would affect the viability of trade and whether it would cause issues. I'm sure they will have opinions that would be important for this consultation, so it's just making sure they're aware of it.
Thank you, Chair. We actually have a trade times going out tomorrow, which is going to be promoting the fare review that we will have starting tomorrow. And this consultation is also in that trade times, and we are urging them to submit their views into that consultation. And the final thing is just to thank officers for their hard work in sorting out the purple flag submissions, because having previously been involved in that as chair of licensing, I know how much effort that is to get done. So it's just to record my thanks, and I'm sure the thanks of the committee and all the councillors. So yeah. I've a bit hogged that. Is just before we go into exempt session, is there anything else before I move on? No? Okay. Right. Thank you very much for the briefing notes. I will now read out the Local Government 1972 exempt information
resolution that we need to vote on. So, that in accordance with section 100A brackets 4 Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining agenda items, as it is likely that, in the view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings, if members of the public are present, there will be disclosed to them exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1 and 2, Part 1, Schedule 12A, Local Government Act 1972, namely, paragraph 1, information relating to any individual, and paragraph 2, information which is likely to reveal the identity of an individual. So can I have a show of hands to approve that regulation, please? That is unanimous. So for those members of the public watching, we're now going into exempt session, and I guess it's time for me to say